start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna smoke.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go is perfect.
When they lose their front shoulders, that's how you know they're smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. We probably went 20 yards to a little tip, then we tried getting back up. I saw him pull up.
We rushed 14 rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that, and then the next day we came up to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
Wow, it's cold beer. We've made it to episode 101. We're way into the hundreds now. We're just plugging right along. So thanks for sticking around. Deer Camp series is continuing. Rifle season started up in New York, and it was a heck of a first day, and the whole White Cat crew's here. We got Nick, Tom, me, and Uncle Todd, the big buck killer.
Yep. Thank you for joining us again, Dad. You seem to be quite the regular lately.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Feeling pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can each go around. We'll do briefly how our mornings went, or first days went. Mine was very uneventful. I saw a little red fox, and that was really it for me.
All I saw was a doe, like, first thing. So it was a slow morning for me, too. There wasn't a whole lot going on for me.
Tom?
I didn't hunt at the headquarters. I was up at the big farm in New York for opening day. Did an all-day sit. About 11:30, had two doe come up out of the gully behind me. Watched them for a little bit. They disappeared. And that was it. It was a long all-day sit. Two doe about halfway through. And
makes for a long day.
Yeah, definitely does. Good thing I had 3 sandwiches and a muffin and all kinds of other
Had
good
them all
stuff.
gone by noon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dad, how'd your opening day go?
Well, we're going to back up to the night before. I got invited up to the actual headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Since Tom was going further up into the Finger Lakes, it left an open cot at headquarters. So
All kinds of room.
I jumped in and took the opportunity to opening day at headquarters and talked it over with Nick a little bit as far as what they were seeing, on the cameras and what was my best shot, or basically
Trying to put a plan together.
Yeah, who's going to go where, and Frank's got his hot spot.
My little honey hole down there. Yep.
And Nick, he's kind of
got my area of the farm I stick to, and
That he tried to venture away from, then I shot a big buck in that area.
Now
and
he's
it's like,
right back. Sucked him right back in.
I put food on both sides. That's not like venturing out was like 80 yards.
Well, biggest mistake of your life.
Either way, so we, Frank and I both had our spot picked. So Dad, was kind of him-hawing on where he wanted to end up.
And Nick gave me a hot tip where he figured we got a stand that we call Mascaris. Was a friend of my dad's that had a stand built back probably 30 plus years
I was
ago.
around.
Yeah, it's an old one.
But so the name stuck. But anyway, he said I was thinking of hunting back in that way, in that area, just because it's got it's a big permanent stand that's got some shooting rails, and you can kind of get
Good bird's eye view of a lot.
Yeah, you get set up in there. It's big, comfortable. A lot of crossings down through the bottom, the flat there. But
right on the tip of the swamp.
yeah. And Nick suggested that.
Well, we just last year put a ladder not far from it.
And I hunted it during archery.
Yeah,
I
past a
up
buck.
Little buck up in there. But Nick said, "Why don't you? If I were you, I would try that ladder stand. It's got a nice shooting rail on it, nice mesh seat, everything's ready to go." So, year before, Nick steered me into a hot spot, and we put a big buck down. So I figured I better listen to Nick.
Better make it 2 for 2.
Says when hot signs hot, you got to hunt it. So I went to that ladder and got set up. We got up and had some coffee cake, and
We were
didn't
up
we
plenty
didn't have
early, though.
Tom making coffee for
No
us.
coffee on the percolator?
No, you weren't there to make it, buddy.
Nobody else could step up to the plate. So we just had some coffee cake instead of coffee.
It's a chore. You gotta. I like to make the pot the night before, get everything situated. Then you gotta set an alarm for like 3:30.
Get the fire going.
Get the fire going again. Put your coffee on the stove, and then by 5 o'clock, it's ready for action. So it's a lot goes into it for me being the only one that drinks it.
Nick and I went down the road to a neighbor's camp to see who all was hunting over there, and just kind of
Celebrate opening day.
and so we didn't really get in back to camp quite in time to prepare for all that. But so anyway, long story short, we had our coffee cake, and we all had our destination picked out, and we packed up and we're off the trail. And I think Nick broke off first into the woods, gave him a little fist bump, good luck, shoot straight. And Whitey and I furthered on down the path, and then I broke off.
And then we gave our fist bumps and said good luck, and it was hunting time.
So, and I was actually kind of telling Whitey, I said, I've never been that guy that was that first shot, when it's just barely light.
Yeah,
and
you hear it, it's like, that guy's a little early.
Is that an accident? Or?
Yeah, but I was kind of teasing and telling Whitey, I've never been that guy, but I wouldn't mind being him one time. And so if we were getting back to my ladder, and I was working my way up. Actually, I got up there, got my backpack off, and I was pulling my bow hook out and started screwing it in the tree, and sure enough, bang! Oh, it's not going to be
Not
me
today.
No. So I said, well, I better get ready. Stuff's already starting. So got my peg screwed in, got my backpack hung on, got my rifle loaded and sitting beside me, and scope turned down low, waiting her out. And I want to say it was not a lot of action. I didn't see anything. There was actually quite a bit of shooting, but it was really mostly off in a distance.
Yeah, there was a few close, but
surrounded us. I mean, it was coming from all directions, but nothing like right in your block that startled you.
Nothing was like, oh man, there's a deer about to come over.
But
the
I mean,
hill.
there was a fair share of shooting going on, and but I really wasn't seeing anything. And then it got to be about, I guess it was about 8:30. I seen some movement coming down the far hill there, comes down into the bottom of the swamp, and all I could make out was, a big bodied, brown deer. I couldn't put horns on it at this point. I mean, it was pretty thick and still out, just over 100 yards, but it was coming kind of down into the bottom of that swamp. And as it worked its way down towards the bottom, I seen it was, he's all by himself and pretty decent sized. And I said, oh, he's got a little bit of headgear on him.
Heck yeah.
So, got me a little excited, and I really wasn't planning on doing any real trophy hunting opening day. Just from what we'd had on camera and up there in the past, I mean, there's a couple decent bucks, but nothing that was really, really impressive. But so I figure, if it had,
we're on a steady incline from what we used to.
Definitely getting better. Yeah.
But you still don't want to be holding out for 150.
No, not quite yet. But he had decent headgear. He wasn't real heavy. Unfortunately, wasn't real tall. But I mean, he was probably, I think he measured 17 inches wide.
Yeah, I think he was just over 17.
I think he's in the top 3.
Yeah, decent. And I've actually never ever killed a symmetrical buck. And this was it was actually, I didn't really know it was that symmetrical when I shot, but it ended up being a perfect 8-point.
Finally broke the streak.
Yeah, I've gotten
40
the only other
years,
8-point I had 5 on one side and 3 on the other. Usually it's a 7 or a 9 or something goofy, but so I did get that monkey off my back. But anyway, he come down through, like I say, he was coming down the hill, and then he was starting to cross the swamp, and he come across my left shoulder, which unfortunately my shooting rail on that ladder is only
was an oversight on my part.
only facing out in front of you. So I really didn't have a good rest. I just kind of, and he was kind of walking straight across the bottom, and I tried to give him a little mat to stop him, but I don't know. He was out pretty far.
You said about 80 or so.
Yeah, I thought he was a little further than but when we went back and kind of reassessed it. It was about 80 yards out. And I guess I just wanted to make it sound like I had a little farther shot. I might have said 100, but
You got to make it sound as good as
realistically,
possible.
he was about 80 yards out and just slowly walking across the bottom. But I couldn't stop him, so I just kind of put the gun on that front shoulder and must have swung it out in front of him, or not in front of him, but just in front of that shoulder, just a hair. When I squeezed it off, I ended up hitting him.
Pretty much
When
dead in the shoulder.
Yeah,
but-
it was just on the front side of the shoulder. But when I hit, he like really hunched up and kind of took 2 staggering steps and stopped. And then he was kind of right behind a hemlock tree. And I seen him kind of wobbling a little bit. And he kind of took another step and disappeared. And I figured he
He's
has
toast.
to be laying down right over there. Yeah, I mean, I felt good. He hunched up. He was staggering. I mean, I didn't even have it really a chance. I racked another shelling, but he had kind of got behind that.
That swamp's so thick. If you get a shot, it's probably going to be your only one.
Yeah, but I figured he was going to be laying right beside that pine tree when I got down and
Yeah,
around there.
basically right where you last saw him.
And within about 10 seconds, my phone starts dinging, and Nick's asking if that was me shooting over there. And so I kind of ignored the call at first. I just wanted to get
Go
all
down
my,
and assess the
yeah,
situation.
get it all figured out before I start replying.
yeah.
And so I did get down, and I walked over to where I seen him standing by the hemlock, and there was we had a pretty good blanket of snow, actually. It was a good couple inches of snow. So, I mean, there was some pretty good little puddle of bright red blood right by the tree. And unfortunately, there was no deer standing there, or laying there, rather. So I got a little puzzled at first. I said, well, I mean, I can't imagine he made it too far. And right past that pine, it's just super thick, kind of red brush,
Yeah.
just gnarly small trees from that swamp. And I mean, it's a nightmare to try to walk through there. So I figured, if anything, maybe he just got hung up and tangled up in there, and trying to find somewhere really tight to bed down and hide it out. And so my phone's ringing again.
I'm getting impatient at this point because I don't know any. I just heard one shot.
Yeah, and I heard him too, but where I'm at, I don't have any service, so I just was like, that had to be Uncle Todd, but I just kind of hung out because I couldn't communicate with you guys.
Yeah, so for probably the next a good 10 minutes anyway, I kind of combed back and forth through
Well,
there.
yeah, you told me, you're like, yeah, I found a little bit of blood, but he's not bleeding bad, but you could see the tracks where he took off.
Yeah, so
So you said, I'm going to walk this little bit. I'll get a hold of you in a little bit.
So I walked them, you could follow some of the tracks through the snow, but then there was deer crossing here and there, so you don't know if you're on the right track. And then
Yeah.
finally you find a little blood on this one, so yeah, I guess this is it. And you keep going, and then I did find where he bed down, and there was really good blood. You could see like the imprints in the snow of his front leg must have been broke, because it was sticking kind of straight out. I mean, and the blood was right behind the shoulder in the bed. I honestly couldn't even comprehend how he
Why
made,
he wasn't
how he
laying
made
there.
it this far. Yeah.
That first bed is when you finally called
Yeah,
Frank and I
I
over.
finally called and said, you know what, we're going to need a little
Calling the
help here.
reinforcements.
Yeah, so we got Frank and Nick to work their way down, and I basically just waited it out. And they probably, within 15, 20 minutes or so, everybody was back to where I found the last bed where I must have bumped them. And so we started there. And
But we kind of discussed, do we go after it? Do we wait? Trying to figure out what our best option is. And we kind of consensus was, we've got blood. He bedded down here. He's headed towards the big swamp. We figured he's got to be heading over there. Let's just
and
at
I
least,
honestly really thought I hit him pretty
Yeah.
hard.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I
looking
couldn't
at the
imagine
bed-
him going
looking at the
too
bed, we
far.
were like, oh, he's got to be, can't be far. Let's just work our way to the swamp. So we put, I stayed right on the trail, and you and Frank kind of flanked off to each side with your heads up, and I just kind of stayed with the trail. Mm-hmm. And I remember we started walking, and within 30 seconds, I was like, hey, guys, there's another bed. I look, blood in that bed. I start walking again. Hey, there's another bed. So I mean, like we keep following, and probably in about 60 yards, there's probably 7 beds. I mean, it was like he kept falling
either
down.
Was falling down or laying down, but yeah.
So now we're starting to question, like, do we let him go? Do we keep pushing him like this or what? But we hadn't moved that far, and we would have seen him.
We hadn't even gone 100
That's what I mean.
yards.
That's what I mean. So we're like, I think we decided let's just get to the edge of the swamp and see if we can't see him from there.
Once it opens up into a little more of the hardwoods, and you can.
Yeah, and right as we're getting to the edge of the swamp, we see a deer take off down parallel with the swamp. And I remember you were like, "Oh man, we kicked him up," and I couldn't see horns on him, but it was it's so thick, it's tough to really make that call for certain.
And with what we were finding with bed, the deer took off and was moving very well. It was like that doesn't look like a deer that's laying down every 30 yards.
Yeah, the one that we bumped. It,
Yeah.
you
So
just
we're
seen a white tail and it was hop,
Gone.
hop, hop, and gone. Yeah. So we're like, well, maybe not. So we worked our way up to there.
And you saw
And
tracks.
I said these tracks look pretty small compared to
Big
the
buck
trails
tracks, yeah.
that we were following earlier. So I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good chance that wasn't the one we were after anyway. And we actually just got to the other side of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then
we decided
him,
it wasn't.
We actually seen him on the other side, kind of stumbling through the trees there.
He just jumped across the creek.
And we laid down literally as we watched him cross. He got just by and then laid down, and we were looking right at him, but we just
everybody lined up trying to get a shot, and it's so thick,
pretty thick, and quite a ways across there, and we're kind of a little dumbfounded that he's made it that far, and what's our best bet to
try to get on without getting him back up.
Yeah, that or just putting him out of his misery at this point too. Just obviously he's hurt.
Right. So we were kind of looking over. I'm got my gun up on a tree trying to get a steady sight. I mean, it's just so thick. It's just not worth trying to push anything through there. And while we were trying to figure out what our best bet was, Whitey had already made the executive decision to try to do a loop around. So.
Yeah, Nick was looking down sight, and I could see I was kind of behind you guys just a little bit, so I didn't have my gun up, and you guys were like on either side of me. And I'm looking, I'm like, well, I don't think we're gonna get a shot. And I said to Nick, I was like, you think I should try to, make a loop around the swamp and get up ahead of him? And Nick didn't really answer me. He just kept looking down sight. He
was too focused
and
on replying. So
exactly, and that little bit of hesitation, I was just like, you know what, I'm going. If I'm gonna go, I gotta go now. And I just bolted and took off running and ran down a couple 100 yards, crossed the swamp, and got a couple 100 yards the other side.
Yeah, all in this time, Dad and I are still watching. At this point, we watched where we last saw him. We know he hasn't moved out of that area.
Yeah.
And I just kept
laid down that final time.
Yeah. So I knew, I'm like, we can't shoot him. I can't see him, but it's clear
right
he couldn't have left. It's impossible. And then I see another deer jump up and shoot up across the road. But I knew that wasn't it either because it came from a totally different area. But just as we could see it going over there, I noticed just on the other side of the swamp I could see the orange from Frank coming across. So he's working just right on the edge of the swamp there. And I whistled to you at that point.
I think you tried to wave or get his attention, but
because we wanted to kind of know where each other were. I was paying attention to find right where you guys were because I didn't want us to be
in the crossfire.
Yeah, so I whistled to you.
Safe. It was,
well, that's We whistled, and Frank, we made eye contact with each other across the swamp, just to kind of everybody knows, hey, this is where I'm at, kind of thing. And then next thing me and my dad see is Frank is just, jumping logs and running through the woods like crazy, and we're kind of like, what is going on?
Yeah, what did he see that we didn't?
And next thing you know, we hear a big bang. And then shortly after that, we hear, got him.
Buck down. Well, I slowed him down, and Whitey had to help me.
Yeah, your shot definitely would have killed him because you got into his chest. You hit one lung. We found out you got a lung and broke the one leg, but it would have taken a little bit of track. We would have got him, but it would have taken some tracking, which we were doing. But it was definitely the right move to run out in front of him and get him down quicker.
Yeah,
it definitely played out right in the end. But and then I got to thinking I really was just trying to teach these young guys a little trick about how you shoot them in the front shoulder and let them run a little bit closer so the drag isn't quite as far from way back where I was at. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
made
that
the
would have been
drag
a
much
nightmare where you were at, so you just made them a little bit easier to get to.
So
yeah, that was unintentional, but it
But-
did work out.
yeah, silver lining, I guess.
Yeah.
No, that was a great hunt. That it was a crazy experience for me. I mean, just seeing how I don't know, it was wild the way that all worked out. Where Frank, he just starts running to the other side of the swamp, and it's one of those scenarios where everything had to play out just right for it to work the way it did.
Yeah, I could have run all that way around, and he could have got up and left before I got anywhere near him, and it would have been just a long jog for me for nothing.
For nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not sure if he was just falling down or if he was trying to lay down and we just kept walking
pushing
and
him
pushing
back
him,
up.
kept getting him up. But because he was really struggling
Yeah.
when we seen him cutting down through there that last
Well, yeah, and when
venture.
we watched him go down the last time, I thought he had died right there. I thought I thought he was done right there because we didn't see him anymore. But that he did bed there, and you just were able to get a shot from the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
So what Nick and Whitey went back to get the truck, and I ended up field dressing it there, and that's when we realized that the
It
one
was
lung
literally like
was
an inch and a
pretty
half
much gone,
forward from
but
where you would
just
want to hit.
I mean,
It
with
was
1 inch, and it would have been into his heart or other
Yeah, you
lung.
would
And
have
I mean, it
destroyed
was
his
just
heart if it was an inch
he was-
higher.
must have been just quartering away just slightly where I got the front of that front lung and missed the second lung. But unfortunately, he had to go a little further than he should have. But
Yep. But that happens sometimes. And
Yeah, you spend enough time in the woods and it happens.
yeah.
Yep, indeed.
But we got them all processed up and good to go.
Yeah, it was definitely a team effort on that one. Everybody was involved, and definitely a rifle season hunt.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it did make for a fun time.
It gives you
Oh,
good
yeah,
reason
definitely.
to celebrate the rest of the day. And I remember, you were trying to get me
so
and Frank
this
to go
was
back
about now was
at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
9:30 when we were all done, and so yeah, I tried to get the guys to get back out and fill some more tags, but
Yeah, I think he was like, I think this 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. slot, there's going to be a lot of movement. We're like, heck no, we got to go back and drink a beer for this.
yeah, we did kind of blow up the backside of the property though, walking through there with 3 guys wide, and so
Kicked up 2 other deer while we were
Yeah.
in there, but
bumped everything out of there that was there. So.
yeah,
It was worth it.
do what
though.
you got to
It
do
was-
to get a big buck.
Exactly. It was a good hunt.
That's the second big buck taken off the farm this year.
I know it. You guys are putting a hurting on them.
I don't know what we're gonna do.
Still got a couple more tags.
Yeah, you still got another one for rifle season, so you could get $3 this year.
That's the plan.
No, they've really done a great job putting some food plots in, and did a little hinge cut trying to give them some better bedding areas. I mean, and it's definitely paying off compared to bucks we had seen, when I was hunting it 20 years ago.
Yeah, even when we started 6 or 7 years ago now, it was like how it was back 20 years ago when you were hunting it all the time. It was 4 points and
Spikes.
I think we had a lot of pressure from locals that we kind of have finally convinced to please stay out of there.
yeah.
So I think that helps. And then the boys, they just put in a tremendous amount of oak trees and
Food plots every year, and pine
Just-
trees, fruit nut trees, apple trees, everything.
yeah. So I think it's just consistently going to just keep getting better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, you put the time in and you'll get something back out of it for sure. And we've already seen that.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll be passing 140s.
You guys
maybe
might.
even next year. Who knows? I did hear when we went down to the corner store, I did hear that there was a really nice buck shot somewhere in the area. I don't know where exactly, but the guy at the store said that the Amish people brought in like a 17 point or something like
Wow.
that. It was insane.
Yeah, there's usually one of them you hear about. It's within a few miles anyway.
There's ground for big deer up that way. I have an idea where that buck came from, but the guy
What, do
didn't
you
know.
keep keeping that a secret?
Well, I'll let you guys all know.
Oh, I think I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all hunted it once or twice, and
So
it's a nightmare.
it's a nightmare to get in there, but when you do hear of a monster, that's usually where it comes from, and it's usually Amish doing a drive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
But yeah, so like Frank said, though, that was just PA, New York's opening.
Yeah, New York opener last week, and then we got
Yeah,
PA opener tomorrow. So
Yeah. So by the time you guys are listening to this, we'll already have a bunch of big bucks down.
Yeah, even better. So I guess, good luck on your hunt yesterday, if you will. And let us know if you guys got any big bucks. You guys have any, you want to give out quick predictions on how we think tomorrow morning is going to go?
Well, if you guys listen to the podcast, you'll know I don't have a buck tag. So,
Tom's too good for that.
yeah, I'm not going to be shooting a buck tomorrow. I don't even know if I'm going to shoot a doe tomorrow. But I'm going to be out there.
Just gonna go enjoy the woods.
Yep. I got my dad packs my lunch for me. So I'm going to enjoy that probably about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Perfect. Get the full experience. Just
Yeah.
don't have to drag a deer.
Yeah, I probably will have to drag a deer because
From somebody
Nick and my
else.
dad and
Yeah.
a couple other family members are going to be out there too. So
I'll call you to drag mine if you want.
That's, yeah. There's spotty service out there. Don't hold your breath for a response.
I actually do have my eye on a big buck out there that eluded me during archery season. That last Saturday, I had him at 10 yards, but I just could not seal the deal.
That sucks.
He came across. I was hunting my climber just down below the coon stand, and he come across that bottom of the swamp, and
By the apple tree there?
right by I could see him coming up through. It was real thick, and he was probably about that apple tree was about 40 yards from me, and that's kind of where I got a
You in
good
the same
look at
beech
him.
tree?
No, I
No, you
actually
moved?
I found an oak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to get an idea. I know the apple tree you're talking.
Yeah, so I was 40 yards back in the hardwoods from
Okay.
that edge, and I seen him coming through underneath that apple tree, and it was real thick in there, and I'm like, well, I probably ought to just draw back now, because once he comes up out of there, he's about 30 yards, but it's wide open, and I'm actually sitting on a telephone pole, basically, so there was really not a lot of cover, so I ended up drawing back at about 40 yards, but he was kind of coming straight at me. And then right before he got to the edge of the hardwoods there, he decided to stop and put his head down and browse a little bit. And so I'm thinking, hell, he's got to be coming here sooner or later. I mean, I was only holding, 20, 30 seconds at that point. But
Feels like a lifetime.
yeah, so now he finally commits and does get up into the hardwoods, but he's about 30 yards and he's facing me, which is not an ideal shot for
Yeah.
me. I just figured it's not
Not
worth it. No.
especially with a bow. It's one thing with a gun, but
Yeah.
bows.
And unfortunately, he's just taking his good old time. He's eating some acorns and moseying, but he's he picks his head up every once in a while, but he's not looking up at me. He's just kind of looking up my way and slowly moseying, and now we're in about a minute, and it feels like 5. But
Yeah.
he's still 25 yards, and he's
Still
dead straight heading straight at me, and he ends up coming all the way up to, there's a little trail there that the loggers must have kind of put in when they were clearing some trees out, and they kind of use that because there's a lot of tops in there, and a lot of deer bed in there, so he's kind of just moseying up to that trail, and then I figured once he hits that trail, he's gonna break right or left, and I'll have
Then
a
he's done.
shot. And he finally did, but he broke to be my right, and he decided to stop. And there happens to be one big tree out there that he's conveniently stops behind. So I was like
getting
thinking,
almost approaching 2 minutes or so.
yeah, and he's just starting at this point to quarter, to get broadside. He's still kind of quartering towards me, but he's almost committed to fully broadside, but he's not there yet, and he ended up finally taking a couple more steps, and he was pretty much broadside, if not at this point starting to quarter away, walking up the path. But I mean, he was pretty much right underneath me, about 10 yards, and I tried to put the pin on him, and it was just shaking like a leaf. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to try to ease it down really easy and see if, take a couple deep breaths, and, because at this point he's only 10 yards. If he can, and he's not moving very fast at all. I figured if he just keeps moseying up that path,
Maybe get one at
I
25
can draw
or-
back at 20 and try to get one in there. As soon as I let down, if I rocked a little forward, something Creek, I honestly don't know, but he took a couple big hops, and then he ended up, he was out of range at that point anyway, but he's just slowly kind of walked up that trail like nothing was going on, and then he actually stopped. He was at this point he was probably about 60, 70 yards up there, and he just stopped. And I figured, I don't know what to do here. All else fails, try grunting a couple times. I broke the grunt tube out, and he just kind of looked like, you got to be kidding me, and kept on moseying away. I never did see him again, but
So you're after.
so that he kind of
vengeance.
left me a little tender that morning. So I'm gonna see if I can't have a better acquaintance with him tomorrow.
Get way better acquainted with him.
Yeah. I think I've talked a little bit about it on here. I've got one really nice buck that I'm not I don't think it's that buck, but I'd like to say it's the buck. We got one of them on camera, but I really don't know. I've had two or three sightings of them. So I'd really like to get that one, but, we just did a card pull last week, or a couple days ago, really, and we got several bucks showing up in daylight, in the spot I'm going to be in, so there's a couple really good ones. There's one I got to watch out for. We got one that has busted off almost all of his tines on one side that I'd really rather just let him go. So
Yeah,
We got that giant 6. We got a 6-point that's about 18 inches wide, 10-inch G2s. That's it.
That's it.
And then we've got another 3-point that's got about probably a 14-inch beam on one side and then a huge fork on the other. It's ridiculous.
Really?
There's 3 bucks running around up there that would definitely trick you at first. Like if you see the rack coming through the woods, could definitely
Look
trick
a
you
lot
out.
better than they are.
And then once you get the scope or binoculars on him, you'd be like, oh, son of a
we
gun.
do have another one that would be an ideal one to let go, but he's about 16 inches wide, but he's really tall.
Yeah, he's
Just a
got
perfect
decent
little
he's
8,
got
but he's
decent mass, but his G2s and 3s are both the same height all the way out. I mean, it's just a very clean 8.
And he's young, too. I mean, his nose
Yeah.
is
Short.
Yeah, he's
3,
kind of
4
short and stubby. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain that buck I had the opportunity at was anyone we seen on because we just pulled the cards from all the cameras actually.
Nothing wrong
I
with Bell.
honestly don't think he was on there, to be honest, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
So, well, like you said, we're going to get a better look at him tomorrow morning.
You
Yeah,
bet.
definitely. About 10 o'clock, get a real good look.
Yeah. White, what are you feeling for tomorrow?
I'm feeling pretty confident. I was kind of kicking back and forth a couple different spots all week, and we just pulled cards the other day, and it really settled me into one of the spots that I was considering. And we had a lot of activity, a lot of nice bucks. I shouldn't say a lot. We had 2 really nice bucks, and another one, we have a 10 that's a 9 now that busted off as one G2.
Oh,
And it was a real nice G2, 9, 10 inches, and he busted it off. He's still a really nice buck, but if he shows me the wrong side, I might make a snap decision to shoot him, and I hope I don't, because I'd like to see him live, but I guess I'll just have to take a little bit extra time. But I definitely think I got a good chance of where I'm going. We got some nice bucks running around down there on that last card pull, so I think it's going to be pretty wild. I think we're going to have a very successful first day.
the worst mistake he can make is probably show you that he's trying to get away.
Yeah.
That always makes you panic.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, it should be a good day. We got a little bit of snow on the ground, so that'll make things a lot easier. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty eventful, and we're all definitely ready. Like, Tom, I'm definitely calling you tomorrow, no doubt about it. I might just shoot a little dough first thing in the morning just to get you to do something.
It's not bad. You did help me drag my buck out.
Yeah, so that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna call you.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we're. Is something wrong with you, Nick?
I'm about to sneeze, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and close it out so I don't sneeze.
Okay?
Yeah,
you want me
can
to say it?
Yeah, you can go ahead and do it, just because I don't want to sneeze midway through.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, that about wraps her up. Congratulations on your buck, Uncle Todd.
Thanks again, White.
Yep, absolutely. And we're gonna be talking to you again, in the next week or two. So hope everybody else, you're listening to this after the first day. Hope everyone had a safe and successful first day. And you got a couple more weeks of season left, so make sure you guys are getting outside.